Bonjour tout le monde, bienvenue au podcast de la chaise bleue. Hi everyone, welcome to the podcast La Chaise Bleue. We're currently live from the CMTS, is that it? Yeah,
Yep.
CMTS downtown in Toronto in their Congress Center. So I have the pleasure to sit in the podcast with Ryan. So thank you very much to sit down with us. And this podcast is dedicated to the leader of the transformation for company at the digital age.
La chaise bleue est une idée originale de GLM Conseil. Cet épisode vous est présenté par AI for Manufacturing Canada.
So first thing first, Ryan, I really would like to get to know you a little bit before jumping in your company, what you guys are doing, the mission, the kind of company, the kind of customer you have. So first question, where you from?
I'm from St. Catharines, Ontario.
St. Catherine, Ontario. This is a bit more west than where we are right now. Is that it?
Basically direct south of us.
Directly south.
Across the lake and maybe a little bit east.
Okay.
We're about 20 minutes from Niagara Falls.
Okay, good. So born and raised there. And give me a little bit of your background. So you've been there. Did you study anything particular? Did you? Where did you work?
Yeah, so I grew up working in the grape and the grape industry, tender fruit, so trees and stuff like that.
Okay.
So growing up, I worked on a lot of different farms and got into the equipment side of things. My dad is a farm equipment mechanic. And,
Yeah, that's what he told me just before.
So it got me into the love of working with equipment and building equipment from a young age. And then
For the food industry, for the fruits and all of these.
yeah, for just farm equipment. I grew up loving farming and farm equipment to the point where my wife and I started a small vegetable farm.
Okay.
After I stopped working for other farms, we developed this. And
Just for fun, or it was really the business that brought the.
it was we started it kind of, it was a side job.
Yeah.
For me, I worked somewhere else, and but we wanted to grow really good vegetables without chemicals for our local community. We grew them kind of year round.
Okay.
At the time, I worked at a local university as a machinist. So my background is actually I'm trained as a machinist.
Okay.
So working with lathes and mills, the kind of equipment we find at this show here.
Yep.
But I worked at the university for the math and science department, building custom scientific equipment for professors and grad students. They would come in with kind of a crazy idea written on a napkin.
Yep.
And we had to figure out how to turn that idea into an actual product. And from there, and having worked with my dad as a kid, it taught me the skills to sort of develop stuff.
And make things happen in the real world.
Yeah, and the one story I like to tell about my dad is when I was young, he would build stuff for farmers. He was an independent farm equipment mechanic, worked for himself.
On his own, or
Yeah, so
okay.
when I was really young, he worked for dealers, and then eventually he got his own van and went door to, like, farm to farm, fixing equipment right there. But we would be in the garage, and he would lay out on the floor what he was trying to build. And he would ask me, I'd be 12 years old. He'd ask me what I thought about how to build it, and I would tell him what I thought, and I would be wrong. But he would explain to me why what I suggested didn't work.
Yeah.
And what might work better. But over time, I was less wrong. And now it's to the point where he comes to me for ideas and
And the way of doing it and how to build it and so on.
I've kind of, and he, loves that story when I tell it.
Wow,
And,
that's amazing how you grew up with an innovative, connection in your brain and the way you see stuff, and it was a really good training for
Yes.
what you're doing right now. So you can
Yeah.
apply all of these ways of figuring out how to just display all the parts, how they're going to get connected together in order to bring the ideas or create value for the end customer at the end of the day. So your dad is the guy that you call on a farm to say, it ain't working anymore. Please come and help me out.
that's exactly what he does. Yeah. And
I love that.
I got less of the fixing spirit and more of the inventing and building spirit.
Okay.
And so then when I worked at the university and we had this small farm, I started seeing problems on the farm for equipment I needed.
Yep.
And so I just naturally just built my own equipment. But then other farms around me who were doing similar things started to see the equipment I was building for myself
on a much smaller scale.
Yes, and wanting that equipment, and that turned into me building equipment for them, and it's growing into our small company we have today.
That's cool. Really, congrats, because you started from innovation, one product, maybe two, and then the demand came directly
Yep.
in it. What's your company name?
It's a Thiessen tillage equipment.
Okay.
So not really. I'm not good at naming things.
That's
but
that's okay. No, I just wanted to make sure that we can underline it during
Yep.
the podcast. So, give me a little bit of the value you're creating for your end customer. How your machine are performing differently
Yep.
to create more value. How are you easing their work?
Yeah. So we work in the two primary industries we work in would be the vineyard industry as well as the small farm vegetable industry.
Okay.
They're kind of very different industries, but in both those industries, our focus is primarily on mechanical weed control. So getting rid of the weeds without the use of herbicides.
Okay, good.
And so on the vegetable side, we build a lot of equipment. Or sorry, I should say those customers are often coming to us from doing a lot of hand weeding.
Okay.
So they're on their hands and knees. They're pulling weeds.
They need,
They're-
workforce like
Well, they're using a
crazy
ton of
coming from
people,
overseas and
or they might be doing like getting local people, or they may be small enough that it's a
Their
husband and a wife,
Yeah.
and some local kids, just working away at it. But and I did it too. I mean, I started farming with just pulling weeds, and so our equipment gives them back so much of their time, and it feels like I'm making a sales pitch for it, but I actually don't think I need to sales pitch it. Because if you bring in something like we make a product or we sell a product called a finger weeder, and it's essentially rubber fingers that work right in and around the crop row.
wait a minute. It's kind of a robot with rubber finger.
It's not a robot. It actually is much simpler than that. It's really just a rubber disc
Okay.
with rubber fingers sticking out from it, kind of
Okay.
like when a kid draws the picture of a sun.
Yeah.
Kind of like that. But those rubber fingers actually touch the crop you're wanting to keep, and they work in there, and they get rid of all those weeds. There's a lot of things to do with size of the weeds
Sure.
and all that. It's not a perfect system, but it works really well. And that can take a job that would take people on their hands and knees probably a day and turn it into 20 minutes.
Oh my God. Okay. That's a huge difference. This is productivity at the highest peak there.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with our ability to train people on timing and watching that kind of stuff. But I really believe that one of our core pieces of our business is giving our customers who a lot of them are like we were, a small family farm,
Yep.
struggling to get by, giving them more time back. So they either have time to make the rest of their business more successful,
Yeah.
or to just have some time off in summer, just not work.
Enjoy family
16
time.
Yes. And we used to work out in the field doing this hand weeding, and we had a young daughter. She was probably like 1 or 2, and we'd put a blanket out in the shade,
Yeah.
surround her with toys, and then
And
we
then
would be
you
in
go.
the field working.
And then she saw you, and maybe she's going to pick up from time to time some weeds as well.
Yeah.
But she will be using maybe these rubber finger eventually to get more time for her and her family and so on. It's really, really, really nice. So, how does your company produce these parts?
Yeah, so we manufacture everything that we sell. We sell for a few other companies in North America as well, but the stuff
Okay.
that we manufacture is all made right in St. Catharines.
Okay.
It used to be that I personally welded and painted everything. We've grown to where that's not the case anymore, and we actually have another partner company in St. Catharines that will do most of our welding and our painting and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then we will do final assembly. We have our own machine shop on site, so I will do all the machining and I do all the design work for the stuff. And so I'll still weld prototypes, things like that, if we want to build
Okay.
a brand new piece of equipment.
Improve.
Yeah, so I'll get the pieces in, I'll do all the welding, I may even do some of the painting, and then we'll test that, and eventually it'll go into a production space.
That's good, really. And I think the food industry, the farming industry is something that we need so bad, just to make sure we're fully independent with the food and the way you're saying it, it's like we can do farming without all of these chemicals just to kill the weed all around, so I can have food on my table for myself, my family, without all of these, with less chemical, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, and it's certainly for some farms, it's part of the toolbox of tactics. So they may use, in fact, my first customers on the vineyard side were farmers that used chemical herbicides and still do. But they use our machine as part of the broader toolkit of
Yep.
tools. One of the things in agriculture is a lot of weeds are becoming chemical resistant. So, Roundup is
They
the
evolve there
yeah,
and they get to know how it.
yeah, and Roundup is the herbicide everybody knows about. It's
Sure.
the one that gets talked about. And
Is it still legal?
yep,
It
Oh, yeah.
is. Wow.
Oh, yeah, it's legal. It's used very commonly.
Okay.
A lot of your corn and soy are like a Roundup Ready, where they can spray it right on that crop and it won't hurt the corn and soy.
Okay.
But in the vineyard side, there's a weed called Canada fleabane, and Roundup basically doesn't kill it anymore. And so it's genetically modified itself
Sure.
to resist the action of
It
Roundup.
has adapt to a street so it
Yep.
can survive.
And so the very first vineyard weeder we built was because a farm saw me working with veggie equipment and said, hey, would that veggie equipment work in our vineyards? And so we took it because they had this fleabane problem. We took it over there. We used a trailer spring on some of our
Yep.
veggie weeders, and it lasted about 50 feet down the row before it just totally was destroyed. And so then you have to go back to the drawing board and test bigger, more robust stuff.
Yep.
And that was a 2-year process. And that's our flagship product, is this big vineyard finger weeder.
That's about a disc about that
It's
size.
about 26 inches, or just shy of, I think, 675 millimeters, something like that in diameter.
Okay.
But it's that same rubber fingered deal.
Yep.
Just really big. And that had existed in the vineyard space before we came in, mostly out of Europe, stuff like that. We developed a system where that head is on some special, say, springs that can allow that head to move in and out and flex up and down. And so
Okay.
things like maintain better ground contact, protect the vines, that kind of stuff. So,
Make sure do not damage the actual
Yeah.
vine that are so precious for the wine that we
Yep.
all like.
yes.
So where are your product used right now? So you started that out of St. Catherine here in Ontario, and are you still having customer base locally or?
Yep. So Niagara would be one of
Sure.
the two main wine growing regions in Canada. There's quite a few now, but Niagara and the Okanagan Valley in
Yep.
BC would be the two biggest. So I'm perfectly placed for that there. So I sell across Canada. I sell our vineyard weeder across the U.S. We've also gone international now, and so we've sold it in Austria, Australia.
Oh, really?
Apparently, all the A countries buy it that start with A. So yeah, there's probably maybe a dozen countries around the world that our product has sold.
A dozen so far.
I would say, I think so, somewhere around there.
Congrats.
And and up until a year and a half ago, we were still working out of a barn, and now we're just working out of like a new nice barn. But
But it's still a barn, it's still a family place where you can have new ideas, manage innovation,
Yep.
and get customer feedback. How are you managing innovation within your own company to make sure you continuously improve what you have?
yeah, so I think actually that might even be a problem for me, because I like innovating so much.
Okay.
Sometimes I move on too fast. And so what'll happen is customers will, no matter how heavy I seem to build something, they'll find a way to break it. And
Okay.
whenever you make something in agriculture and probably most of these industries, whenever you make something stronger, something else breaks downstream, right? There's
Yep.
always that weak link.
Sure.
But I am just trying to always take in what is breaking. We try to find out why it broke. Often it's operator error. They drove it into a tree or something like that. But sometimes it's not that, and it's something we can improve on. And we're really in tune with our market. So I came from farming.
Sure.
And that developed my business. The people that help me with sales are also in farming. They were farmers. And so we're really connected to the farming space. And so we really hear from other farmers what is missing in their world, what could be improved on, and then we work really hard to make that equipment for them. And I mean, the vineyard space has a lot of people building equipment for it.
Yep.
We're one of the few in the mechanical weed control space in North America. A lot of it is European imports. But on the small vegetable grower side, that's a market that has been untapped for a long time. And so it's a space where we really try hard to do innovation and to build really cool products that are made here in Canada. And we're really excited about that.
Good for you, really. You found a really nice niche.
Yep.
Because nobody that is not doing farming and had to just do the weed removal process manually, nobody would have think about building something in that specific field. So I'm sure there's a niche for you. It's really, really nice. So and coming from that lifestyle of farming, there is nothing better than that, to have discussion with customers so you can easily relate. Then you go back to this new barn you have right now.
Yep.
Fix thing, make things stronger until you find out the next weakest link for the other innovation. So it's an iterative innovation based on the usage of your product on the market.
Yes.
I like that. Ryan, we're sitting in our Canadian up north shack right now, which is called La Chaise Bleue you're sitting on.
Yep.
And you're full of passion for what you're doing, because as soon as we talk about innovation, your product, I saw your eyes opening up. And I can feel you like what you do. And sitting by this nice fireplace right now.
It's very warm.
Yeah, it is actually. And warm outside today, so we'll need to calm it down a little bit. How do you keep your internal fire burning? To wake up in the morning, just drive customers, improve sales. You went from local sales not that long ago. Now you have your product in 12 different countries. What are the logs you put internally in yourself to keep this fire burning with the passion? Is there anything special you do, either personally, with family, sports, whatever, or in the business? How do you keep your passion burning?
That's a good question, and I've never been asked that question. So
that's why I'm asking.
Yeah,
I wanted to get you on from another angle. Yeah, because I like to speak with entrepreneur, people with idea, and understand also what are they doing on their lifestyle to maintain this passion going.
Yep. I probably should do more.
Okay.
I spent a lot of years working way too many hours. That's probably the same thing you hear from every entrepreneur. I mean, I'd work till I barely saw my young kid, right? And then a few years ago, I said I have to start quitting a little earlier. And going. It's really hard because I live right next to my business, right? So it's really easy to just go and work all the time.
It's hard to cut the...
I don't have to drive home and then I'm home. It's right there. But I guess I was a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the struggles of farming, and I really want to take some of those struggles away. So you ask what fuels my passion. And
sure.
I don't know that I do anything to continually fuel it. Like, I have hobbies and things like that. I do jujitsu, and that's a good way to get rid of the stress.
Stress and the...
and
clear your mind of all of these things struggling you may have
when you're fighting a 300-pound guy. It's really easy to just focus on that for a little bit.
Absolutely. I want to survive. I want to survive there.
But I guess it's just, I have a lot of fire for fighting the fight to make it easier for farmers. And I mean, starting a business like this, I'm sure all the people you talk to, everything is a fight. I've had to learn about things I never thought in my life I'd want to learn about. And
accounting stuff, sales, distribution,
all that stuff. And every time I've heard it said that it doesn't necessarily get easier as you scale your business. It's just that and I forget what the saying is, but it's something about you just have bigger tools to fight the bigger battles with. And the battles are still big, and I'm still pretty small, but that's really what it's felt like.
Still.
And I have my days where I feel by the end of the day like maybe I should turn it all in and go drive a dump truck for a living.
Mm-hmm.
But you go to bed, you sleep, you wake up, and you're ready for that fight again. And it just feels like Yeah, maybe I'm too stubborn to.
Has to be one part of it, maybe.
Yeah,
I
but-
like it because farmers are working really hard.
Yep.
They don't take much vacation. They got the field, they got the animals, so they are really really there. And you saw, I guess, your dad in this lifestyle, family, and you had it yourself. So and you make your life about helping these people to get more time to do things, to do other things. Maybe some for them, maybe some for the farm itself. But it's really rewarding, I'm sure, because you had to feel it, and you're still feeling it, working hard to help the others in the farming industry.
Yeah, and I think I'll do a shout out here that a big part of being able to keep going is my wife, and we're on the same team here, right? And like starting a business has been just a stupid amount of work.
Absolutely, you
And-
cannot count the hours. It's not how it works.
And she's been on that same team with me this whole time. That we have the same vision of what we want Thiessen Tillage to be, and that we're moving towards the same target together. And that has made a massive difference in my life.
That's
Um,
so having the right partner is important there.
Yeah, because
so-
it's not like I come home and I've had a long day and she gives me a hard time about it. She's there with me. She understands
it's your
why
turn.
we're doing things, and she's part of the business now as well.
Cool.
And it's been amazing, and that's my shout out to her. But
What's her name?
Amanda?
Amanda. So hi, Amanda. We thought about you. Two other questions. What was the best tip you ever had in your life to do what you're doing right now, creating to be an entrepreneur? Is there anybody, a mentor, maybe your dad, your whoever, that maybe someone that you met that they gave you a tip that we can share for the people listening?
Man, wasn't prepared for all these questions.
No, I'm
here.
sorry about that, but I'm not.
The only one that comes to mind, and maybe it doesn't fit, but maybe it does, is
Yep.
growing up, my dad always taught me that no-name tools were no name because they weren't proud to put their name on it.
Oh.
And so I actually, with CNC laser cutters or whatever, carved Thiessen into. It's not just a sticker; it's actually cut into the metal onto every product we make, or as many as I can fit it on.
Yep.
Because I'm proud of the equipment we're making, and I don't know if that
Absolutely.
advice fits, but that's the one that popped into my mind.
I love it. I have nothing to add on that. And my last question is, let's say I have so much fun. I think I could speak with you for like another hour and ask question and go a little bit deeper. But let's say we stop and we go for lunch together. And while walking in the alley right here, I just hit on a stick of wood. And I'm like, what is this? And it's actually a magic stick. And I'm a generous person, and I think you are a lot because you're helping the other farmers with all what you're doing. So I take this magic stick and I give it to you, and there you go. It's now yours. You have only one wish.
Yep.
You can do anything within your own company to do whatever you want. Money ain't an object. The time is not an object as well. The emotion of your coworkers or your colleague or your wife as well. Nothing is an object. What would you do to create more value for your end customer with that wish?
So probably what I would do is, what I really want to do right now is get to the space where we can bring on more people in the sales and customer support side of our business who are from an agricultural background.
Okay.
Because farmers, I find, really respect when you talk to them about equipment if you've actually used it. in the
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
past. And just get to a place where I can have enough of those people so that the phone doesn't ever go unanswered. Because right now it's too often where I am the main guy that does R&D and does sales and all that, and often
You
the
don't want to
phone-
be a one-man show. This is tough, huh?
Yeah, and we are we got 4 full-time people that work on site. I have a half-time person that works for me in Quebec in French language sales, but it's still not enough. We're still at a scale, but I just feels like I don't know if we're ready or we are ready. Maybe I'm too scared to make that next jump, and maybe I need to. And that's part of business, right?
Absolutely.
Is rolling the dice and seeing if you think it's the right decision, but you don't know for sure, and you got to take that leap of faith and that risk, and that would, your magic stick would allow me to just
bring to your company
do
all of
that.
these knowledge, these people that really
Yeah.
use the equipment so they can be there to answer the phone, answer to you and customers, so they have as much good tips that you can provide as we speak. So
Yeah, because a lot of what I do is not. I don't consider myself a salesperson. I mean, I'm the one that does handle most of our sales. I often talk my customers out of sales as much as I talk them
Yeah.
into sales. I'm really interested in finding solutions that are going to work for that farmer in that space. But it requires a fair bit of labor to talk to them. You know,
Yeah.
you're on the phone for an hour sometimes with people listening to their
Sure.
whole story to make a small sale, and that's awesome that we can do that. I'd like to do more of that and trying to figure out how. So your magic stick would really solve that. 'Cause That's
free up some times for that. This is important. This
That
is
is-
called productivity, man.
Yeah.
So you need to automate and be so efficient with all of these tasks you gotta do that you have much more time to speak with the end user, have their feedback, feel the pain they have, so you can improve your life, their life actually with the tools that you're bringing. So really appreciate it, Ryan. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Hope you find any good tips, anything here that may help you on this this path that you're doing, and keep on growing the business and manage these risks and take
Yeah.
some. You're doing great, man.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Cet épisode de La Chaise Bleue vous a été présenté par GLM Conseil. Acolyte de la transformation dans votre entreprise à l'ère du numérique.